All righty. Welcome, class. Week 6. How's everybody doing? Halfway there. We're at the meeting point, right?
Woohoo!
Excellent. Happy to have all of you here. Chef Lee, everyone. Good to see you on the screen. Tuning in. Let's see. So a few things to note. Week 6, right? So we're at that halfway point. Go back, double check if you have anything that you maybe a knowledge check if you felt like, hey, I want to do that one over again or short on some points. Go ahead, hop in there, take it again if you haven't maxed out on your 3 tries, just to up your grade. And remember that if you are dealing with any external circumstances that Chef Lee or myself can help with, reach out to us because the sooner the better. The sooner we get that resolved and moving forward, the more likely you are going to be to succeed, which is what our goal is, to learn and succeed in this class. So we want to make sure that we're getting everything tightened up. If you're missing anything due to reasons that we've all talked about, please just reach out to us. Let us know how you're progressing on those assignments, so that way we can get your grade up. And you can start seeing those results come in, right? If you have just half of, maybe you've done the cooking and you haven't gotten around to the narrative. Well, guess what? Rather see you get those points coming in for the cooking, and work on that narrative later. But let's get you the credit that you deserve for executing the assignments. All right, that's what we're getting at here, because we're at that halfway point. So, Chef.
So speaking of getting the grades that you deserve, one thing that I'm seeing consistently each week is that students turn in fabulous work, but I don't see a photo ID or sanitation photo. Please take the time to submit those photos. That's 20 points towards your grade. So you could effectively turn in A work. And if you don't turn in your narrative and your self ID and your sanitation photo, you get a failing grade, or a D. So please stay on top of that.
Definitely. Also, if you have already been taking CE187 this first half of the course, awesome. You'll be wrapping that up. Make sure you finish strong in that course. And if you haven't, you'll be starting that up next week. So remember, your plate load is going to get a little bit fuller with research material and assignments that need to be completed. So something to take into consideration, right? If you can get caught up on this weekend of anything that you need to do, make this weekend worth it. So that way you're not triple bogged down with another class and trying to catch back up on past work. Aside from that, that's kind of all the business talk I wanted to talk about. Instead, let's get into the fun, right? Cooking time. Does anybody have any questions regarding an en papilote or pomme boulangère? Seen some beautiful work coming in, nice attention to detail on knife cuts, and even thinking about how you organize, right, your products, your vegetables or your fish within that en papilote, because remember, the guest is going to open that. So having that, forethought of thinking, well, I'm not going to be able to plate this I'm not plating this afterwards. So how does that presentation look in the package before going in? So seeing some beautiful attention to detail on that as well, which is great. Anybody have any questions though? Pretty straightforward, assignment, nothing crazy technique wise, but looks like we're all good here then. Anything coming in the chat?
No, nothing in the chat.
Cool. Well, then let's talk about waste in the food kitchen. We've been talking about this here and there throughout the start of the course, right? Dibbling and dabbling around there about utilization. What's one of the biggest things when we're not even talking about farm to table? We're just talking about restaurants example. What is the major thing that you have control of in the kitchen as a chef? What are your bosses, the owners, going to talk to you about? Food waste, yeah. What does that relate to? What does that come down to when you're looking at a food cost? Yes, Christina, food cost, right? Remember, the more you waste, the more your food costs. All right. Let's just take a banana, for example, right? Take a banana, you let that rot, starts to turn. you've got a few options of what you can do with it, right? You could turn that, you could say, hey, you know what, let's turn this into a special. We could make some great banana muffins or banana bread, right? What if you don't have that option in your establishment? You're just going to have waste now. You've let that banana turn, spoil. It's black. It's too mushy. You can't use it for the one dish that you use it in, bananas, Fosters, and your banana waffles, right? As a topping for your waffles and pancakes. So I've got to throw out half of that. I have to throw out half the banana. Say my banana costs 20 cents. I've just thrown out half of that. What does half a banana cost now? Still costs 20 cents, right? But you're only getting half of that banana. You've just doubled the cost of your product. All right. What about peeling a potato? Peeling a potato. Do you use a peeler? Do you use a paring knife? What's going to get you the best yield? Peeler. Yeah, exactly. That's going to get you the best yield, right? You're not going to take a lot of that meat, that flesh off of that potato. If you start taking off some of that flesh, what are you going to do? What did the price of your palm puree just go up? Right. There's definitely utilization. We're going to be talking about ways to utilize food waste, but what we're talking about right now is food cost.
Eddie says it goes up.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to increase that big time. So what do we think that means about our staff? What's important about, yield, exactly, Barbara. What's important about our staff? What do we need to make sure that we are giving our staff? Training, yeah. Training on what? Portions, food costs, yeah. Everything, right? Food costs. What else do we think? Let's get more specific. You guys are all right in there. But what do we need to train them on? Knife cuts. Yeah. All right. Recipes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to keep on focusing, right? When we're trying to look for targeting that idea, right? We of course have to train our staff on that, right? Food knowledge. Yeah, of course. Portion control, right? But knife cuts are really important. What about what happens if we, who's ever broken down a pineapple or a watermelon, right? How much flesh do you lose if you don't have a chef with a sharp knife and a good techniques and training? A ton. All right. Let's think about sometimes front of the house will do some prep for the bar, but they're usually in most restaurants, you're not going to have front of the house doing food prep. It's not an efficient way to run a restaurant unless you're training that front of the house staff on how to use a knife, keep proper sanitation, make knife cuts. Otherwise, I really do not suggest putting front of the house staff in charge of things where they have not been specifically trained. Just like we wouldn't want somebody in the back of the house mixing up cocktails if they haven't been trained on that, right? Training. If you train front of the house, all right, great, perfect. But without training, it's not something you want to do. You're going to have a bunch of lemon wedges that are like that, right? We've all seen that. That doesn't look great for presentation, does it? No way. Dull knives, right? Not what we want to do. Cross training is a great idea. Yeah. So let's take this idea about a watermelon. We're going to break it down, right? Let me get a visual for you here and pull this up. And I want to ask you guys, what do you think you can do with your leftovers here? 1 second. Let me just get this the right one. Want to show you this. So say we're breaking down that watermelon. We want to get the most yield, right? There we go. Talk about that rind. Say we're going to use this style of, normally you would have this when doing this prep to have a little bit flatter of a base, but you could do full if you wanted those full pieces depending upon the cut. What can we do with this watermelon rind? with the rind. What can we actually do?
Pickle it. Yeah.
Bingo, Jamie. Pickle it. All right. Throw a brunoise on that, a really small brunoise, pickle that. Now you've got this beautiful little pickled brunoise watermelon rind that could go on a salad or part of a beautiful seafood carpaccio dish, right? Nice scallop dish. You could make a jelly. Yep. All right. Let's think about what else. Yeah, you can think about, you know, feeding other things, but again, we're talking about how to talk about value added, right? You've already incorporated, right, the cost, right? When we're doing a recipe, you're already knowing that you're going to lose that rind to make that dish that you're going to serve. Maybe it's a watermelon carpaccio, maybe it's a watermelon feta and mint salad for the summer, because that watermelon's coming in beautiful and fresh and juicy for the summer months, right? Feta, some salty, vibrant, briny cheese, some fresh herbs. This is a huge hit. You'll throw together a quick little lime vinaigrette, really beautiful, right? Now, you've got that already planned out. You already have the cost of your salad, knowing that that rind is going to waste, right? When you're building out your menu cost, right, for that specific dish. So now if I take that product that I'm normally going to throw out or compost or give to the courses, right, whatever, now we're going to turn that into another product by adding a few ingredients and making it a value added product. That just becomes a garnish. That becomes a jelly. That becomes a part of a cocktail. Now you're just making profit on something that was going to go into the garbage. All right. So now let's start thinking about this. Start thinking about other things. What about right here? What about this? What can we do with this? We've got a beautiful roasted carrot dish on our menu, right? And we're getting these gorgeous, lovely local carrots in, right? From a farmer, you know, 50 miles away, has some great carrots coming in. And, you know, you're buying the whole kit and caboodle, right? You're getting the whole carrot. You're getting these beautiful green tops. Are these green tops edible? What can we do with green tops? What are some of your ideas? I want to hear from you guys now.
Yeah,
What do you think?
Great comments here in the chat. Steam the green, make a pesto, soup stews, plant them, dry them, salads, broth.
Excellent. Fry them using on top of a salad, garnish. Yes, this is how you need to start thinking, right? Utilization. Loretta, your horses are going to be happy. All right. All right. Of course, we've got compost, right? You've got that compost factor, but we've also got this beautiful product that's coming in. If you've got beautiful product, no point in throwing that into the compost bin, right? Utilize it, highlight it, let it shine.
We've got a hand up, Chef.
Yeah, Bradley.
Yes, I just wanted to say for the watermelon rinds and the pineapple tops and stuff like that, I use that in my ferments and stuff. I make kombuchas and also meads and different stuff. So
100%. Yeah. Fermentation process is great to add some flavor. Now, some things that we do want to consider when utilizing rinds. What do we think is something that we want to think about when we're using, let's say we're juicing a bunch of oranges for a fresh mimosa. What do we want to make sure? I think Bradley's ready to answer that. What do you want? What is it, Bradley? You there?
Can you unmute yourself, Bradley?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You said to use the watermelon rinds.
Well, what I was asking is what's important when we're utilizing watermelon rinds, or we're going to take we're making fresh orange juice for a beautiful mimosa, and we're going to have a bunch of oranges that we're going to be squeezing, right? What's important that we're doing with this external, the rind or the flesh? What's really important here?
Don't.
When we're using it, yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead.
No, it's okay. You go. If you've got an answer, let's hear it.
Okay, sorry, I unmuted myself. Yeah, we can open up to the class. Any suggestions or comments?
All right. So cool. So what do you all think? What do you think is important when remember, if we're not getting, we're getting products that are commercially produced. What do you notice about that outside of that watermelon rind? What do you notice on the outside of your orange, your citrus zest? What do you notice?
I was gonna say zest.
Yep, zest is a part of that. But what's that external? Have you ever noticed that waxy? Yeah, apples have wax, right? That wax, that white part that's coming on. You have to make sure that you're thoroughly, if you're going to utilize that as a product, make sure that you're properly washing and taking care of it. Putting in a vinegar bath can help dissolve some of those chemicals, that wax. But you want to be thinking about that because you want to be thinking about that long-term end product, right? And what we're actually feeding and giving to our customers. So processing that in the right way so that you can utilize that. But yeah, definitely zest, right? Say we're juicing a bunch of stuff, right? Bunch of citrus. Man,
Candied orange peel.
Exactly, chef. Candied orange peel, right? Bitter orange marmalade. Long zest garnishes for your cocktails. Saving that zest for shortbread. Infusing an alcohol that you're going to make a cocktail out of. Right? Maybe you want to make limoncello. Right? Limoncello uses the lemons, right? Pith and zest and sugar and alcohol. Now you've just taken, again, a product that would normally be getting thrown out. Maybe it takes a little bit extra time and care and labor and love, but you're going to start making money off of that. And you're going to reduce. What else do we think? What happens if we're every week, right? We're getting pickups for our trash, right? How many times are you having the garbage company come and waste management come and pick up? Right? Reduce your pickups. If you really start working on your food waste and control, right? Some places might have 2 pickups per week. Maybe you can get that. If you can reduce your food waste substantially, maybe you can get that down to 1 pickup. You just dropped your costs. All right. Yeah, composting is a great idea, but you've got to make sure that you have the right structure and setup to put a compost outside of your restaurant, your establishment. If you don't have the right control set in, what's going to be attracted to that little compost? Little varmints. Don't want HACCP running around, coming around and checking out what's going on with all the extra little animals, right? So where can you get that? What about thinking about this? All right. What do pigs eat? What do pigs get? Slop, everything. They'll take it down, right? So maybe a pig farmer around town. Around in your area, they will exactly start selling it to farmers. Or maybe not sell, make a deal with them. Say, hey, you come pick up my compost. It's all yours. Hook me up give me a better deal on a, exactly, trade. Give me a better deal on a hog for next year. Right? You just started closing the circle on your food system. Started helping another local provider, right? Started building that community. Started creating bonds, right? Fertilizer, yeah, turning that into compost. All right. What other ideas do you guys have about food waste? And we've been bouncing about ideas. We've got compost coming in, right? We've got training. What else? How else can we reduce food waste? I heard somebody say portion control. That was a really good one. How else? Storage. Yes. FIFO. First in, first out, right? That's going to be one of your most important things when running a business. First in, first out. If you don't when you get your deliveries and you don't organize that correctly, and your cooks are in a rush, they're just running into the storeroom, grabbing whatever, because they got fire lit underneath their butt, right? And they're trying to get action. They don't have time to say, oh, is this the freshest? Is this not the freshest? Was this what came in today? Or was this what came in last week? No, you need to make sure that your sous chef or your kitchen manager is making sure that proper rotation is going on. Otherwise, your cooks are going to grab whatever is first and foremost and take that and go. Who's ever walked into a kitchen and seen multiple ketchup containers open? Mayonnaise, right? Spoilage, waste.
We've got a couple of comments coming in about streamlining your menu, rotating menu items to lose what's not selling.
Yes.
Order just what you need. That's a really important point when you think about your PAR inventory. So yeah, these are great suggestions.
Awesome. Making sure that you order from reputable sources, of course. What else is really important about that? What else? What happens when that delivery gets dropped off on the back of your door, right? At the dock. What do you need to do? Receive and inspect. Yeah. Because what happens when you're not checking that? When you're not weighing it and checking your produce? What if I need green bananas coming in? Because I like to have time for them to ripen. Right? And they start sending me yellow bananas. I'm not going to be able to crank through that because how I have my menu planned, I need green because I want it to ripen in time because I'm working on my yellow bananas that are already ready to go for service. Yep. Leakage, temperatures are off. Beautiful. Mold. Yep. On those berries, right? Think about you get a case of a box of berries in. Berries are expensive, right? Yep, definitely. Cross contamination, highly potent. Loretta's talking about E. coli, right? On certain vegetables coming in, sure, during the summer, of course, right? Checking the right amount, yeah, weighing your boxes, right, upon receiving, right? That's why those duties are distributed to a kitchen. Otherwise, we're talking about a lot of food loss, right? What if you're getting moldy bread in your sandwich shop? Better send that back, right? Otherwise, because guess what? Some companies are going to try to push off product on you, right?
You're saying make sure that the temps are correct. What do you want to double check that you're receiving and make sure that it's the proper temperature when you receive it? What's especially important in that regard? Fish, that's right. Meat, dairy and meat, seafood. In 187 last week, Chef Kyle shared a story about a fish purveyor. The guy's truck broke down. So his manager came out with a U-Haul. They put the fish on the U-Haul, had a bucket of ice. And so the guy would, right before he took the delivery into the restaurant, would throw some ice on top of it. So it would look like it's in the right temperature range. But he opened it up, Chef Kyle opened it up and inspected it. It was like, this fish is warm. So he went out and looked at the guy's truck, and sure enough, they were, running a scam, basically. So you have to make sure that you double check the temperatures and the quality of the product that you get.
100%.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what people try to get away with.
Yeah, and of course, it doesn't mean every,
No,
company's going to be like this, but they're running a business too. And if they say, hey, you know what? We noticed that Sunshine Cafe doesn't really check their deliveries. Throw some in there. Not saying it's right. It's not right at all. That's not correct business, right? However, you got to do your due diligence because somebody will try and take advantage of you. It's on your end, and it's your right, because you are paying for this to demand what your specifications and requisitions are. I asked for this, I need this. right? What if you start getting a, a chicken that has a load of fat on it? Again, unless you're running a kosher cafe and throwing out matzo ball soup and have tons of, and you want that fat and making schmaltz and delicious matzo balls, you're paying the price per kilo or per pound for chicken, and you're paying for a lot of fat that your customers may or may not want. It was great before, but now the chicken's really fatty. Customers notice this, right? That's why they keep coming back. And they'll notice changes in their product. They'll notice changes in your quality of food. Has anybody ever noticed that at a restaurant that they've loved and then go back and say, you know what, did the chef change or what's going on? Does anybody ever notice that before at a place? Right? Yeah. Do you want to keep going back to those restaurants? Do you want to keep going back to that establishment, or do you feel like you're getting taken advantage of? Right? So this is why it's so important. You're the front gate, you let what you let into your kitchen. You can stop it at the door, and that's where you need to stop it. It's going to be the first line of working on your food costs and food waste. All right, then we move into FIFO. Then we talk about waste management, utilization, training staff, and thinking about all parts of the product. So I'm going to go one more thing, and then we're going to hop into some recipes, but I just want you all to start thinking about that. Another thing to think about is all the products that we get that we just maybe don't think about what is actually edible or not, right? So just going to show you a few more things and want to just get your ideas coming in here and think about what you can do with this. What do we think? Radish leaves, edible or not?
Yes.
Yeah, what can you do with it? What would you do with it? Garnish. What else can you do with it? Salad, garnish, fry them. All right, cool. What about add to recipes? Maybe throw that in a beautiful soup, right? Some chiffonade of radish leaves, right? What about actual broccoli? Everybody know what broccoli looks like straight off from the farm, right? What about these leaves? Edible? Not? Delicious? Tough? What do you think? I love broccoli leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of my most favorite things ever. All right. Beautiful stir fry. Beautiful. Pickle them. Add them as a component. More vitamins in the leaves. Yeah. Utilization. Let's hop into this week's beautiful friend that we're going to be dealing a lot with. Huge leaves on this head, right? Again, edible, full of nutrition, wonderful. Stir fries, sautés. Ready, could be used in en papilote. Sure, why not? They're not as durable as, say, like a banana leaf, but they'll work in them. Yeah, you could cook them out like turnip greens for sure, mm-hmm. Right? All right. Does anybody have any questions on what we've just been covering? I know we went over a lot of stuff, but.
Bradley, I see your hand is up.
Yep, sorry, I think I left it up from earlier.
Okay, all right, no worries. One thing I wanted to add to what you were talking about, Chef, if you're going to get in bigger cuts of meat to save money, you're getting in primal cuts, what's going to go in the trash? When you think about what might normally go in the trash, what do you think might? Fat. What can you do with that fat? Bones. You can use it to fry. You can use the bones to make stock. You can melt it down and save it. Absolutely. Same with chickens. If you're getting in whole chickens and fabricating those to save money, and you're not going to use that chicken skin, God only knows why, but you could take that chicken skin and do something with it to make money. What would that be?
I'm a fry mine, Chef.
Fried chicken appetizer, fried chicken skin appetizer, right? With some spicy aioli.
Beautiful.
Fritters. Yep.
A great garnish.
Yeah. So I thought I would add that. And let me get these recipes pulled up. This is one of my favorite weeks, and I call cauliflower cauliflower. There's so many, you laugh at me every time. There's so many things you can do with cauliflower, and a couple of examples here I have made, and maybe y'all can throw in the chat what you do with it. Cauliflower fried rice, cauliflower risotto, mashed cauliflower, cauliflower pizza crust, all sorts of things you can do. So let's take a look at the photos for this week. What did I say that was punny? Oh, that I called it cauliflower?
Yes.
All right,
I
can y'all
want you
see?
to call it cauliflower for the rest of the class.
I'm a dork. Okay, so when you are preparing your cauliflower steaks, one thing you want to remember is that you're going to be cutting cross sections out of your cauliflower to create these steaks. And I want you to keep this in mind. You're going to be cutting those steaks from pole to pole with your cauliflower head. You don't want to cut them across the equator or horizontally, because if you cut them this way, if you cut them from pole to pole and leave this bottom part of the stem intact, it's going to hold together much better. So just keep that in mind. And when you are doing your steaks, you can see here, these are beautifully caramelized. And in order to achieve that caramelization, you want to make sure that your cuts are really even, because if it's wonky, you're going to have part of that surface area that's not hitting the pan and not getting caramelized. When you're making your steaks, think about that basting technique that you used in week 3. Fantastic way to cook your cauliflower steaks. You'll see here in the photo too, there's some gremolata. So when you make your gremolata this week, know that that's an ideal garnish for your cauliflower steak. We'll talk about the gremolata a little bit more in a minute. Looking at the rest of these photos here, there's another close-up of some cauliflower steaks with that gremolata. And you've got your puree. So a puree, the consistency of a puree is going to be between one thing and another. We all write in the chat what you think it's going to be between, the consistency that you're looking for. We have anything coming in?
Not yet, Chef.
Okay. So I'll just go ahead and tell you, you want your puree to be between a mash and a soup. So with a pureed soup, if you take a spoonful and turn it sideways, that soup is going to pour out of your spoon. If you have a mashed cauliflower, you take a spoonful of that, it's probably going to plop onto the plate. With your puree, you want something that's going to stay in the spoon, maybe just kind of slowly pour out of that spoon, but it's going to be thicker than a soup, much thinner than a mash. It's going to have a really silky, smooth consistency. So if you don't have a food processor, a blender to make your cauliflower puree, what are some other ways you can do that? What other equipment can you use?
Strainer, said Jorge.
That's right. You know, once you cook your cauliflower and it's nice and tender, you can push it through a strainer or a colander to achieve that creamy consistency that we're looking for.
Also, a food mill will help you get there as well. That'll start to get you in that process. A tammy will also do that.
Yep.
Anything fine mesh strainer, because what Chef Lee is really trying to drive the point out here, we don't want to see graininess. A puree, remember, should be smooth, right? Silky, have some body to it, have some consistency, right? But it should not be chunky in this application, right?
Mm-hmm. Think about your gremolata that you're making. You know, you're going to be using some lemon zest in that. You could save some of that lemon zest and use it to garnish your puree. That would be lovely. Here in this photo, they garnish it with fresh thyme. And I always say, if it's not edible, don't use it as a garnish. So you could certainly use these leaves, maybe chop them up a little bit because they're very pungent, but take this woody stem out. Don't use stems from rosemary or thyme as a garnish on a plate. Moving along here, here's your gratin. And this is going to cook up kind of like macaroni and cheese, right? You're making it with a bechamel. You are making your bechamel. You're not going to buy a jar of bechamel at the store. This is something that is very easy to execute. It's a roux-based sauce. I think you made it back in what, 122? Is that right? So, you know, that's an important component of this dish, but this is what you're going to be looking for at the end. You've got some caramelization on top. You've got this nice creamy sauce from the bechamel, and then that cheese on top is just going to give it the wow factor that you're looking for. Here's your gremolata, or the ingredients that go in your gremolata -1. You're going to be using anchovy fillets in your gremolata. And so combined with the garlic, the lemon zest, and the chopped parsley, you're going to create this beautiful sauce that you saw back here in this photo. We'll talk a little bit more about that recipe and the anchovies in just a minute when I pull up the actual recipes. So any questions so far about what I have discussed?
Chef, we do have a few comments that I just want to share with class. Talking about anchovy paste. Anchovy paste is an okay substitute if you can't get your hands on some anchovies. You'll find that fresh canned anchovies in oil have a lot more flavor. It's just a bit more pungent and saltier. And because it's fresh, it's not like a second process going in. But if that's all you can get your hands on, yeah, go for the anchovy paste. That's fine. Part of the technique is making a paste out of that anchovy. But so, you know, that's fine. If you can get your hands on it, that's important. Another thing is the milk substitution. So if you can use a lactose-free substitution, that's what I would suggest for your bechamel, right? For your puree, you could just add some more stock. That's gonna be okay, and maybe add a little an extra nub of butter to get that creaminess and that milk, you know, that milk fat solid in there as well. But I would highly suggest there's not going to be really a substitution for making your bechamel without milk or lactose-free milk.
If you can't eat fish, if you have an allergy to fish, you can use capers.
Yep, capers and olives, a little combination of those two. It's going to bring that brininess right in. That'll be perfect. Chef, I don't know about you, but I also think that that gremolata recipe could take a lot more parsley.
Yes, yeah.
So if you've got that on your hands, add more parsley to your gremolata recipe. I think you'll find it a lot more palatable. A little bit of oil in there can really round out that flavor profile for the gremolata.
I agree. If you have an aversion to fish, if you just don't like it, I want you to make it with the anchovies anyway. You know, part of being a chef is being able to and being knowledgeable about making things that we may not necessarily want to eat, but we need to be able to create foods that our customers are going to want. So just roll with us here with this one. If you don't love anchovies, who knows? Maybe you think you don't like them because you had them on a pizza sometime, but it's going to be different in this in the gremolata than it would be eating one of those fillets by themselves. And you're right, they are a little bit hairy. Somebody said that, mentioned that in the chat, but when you make this paste, all of those things are going to smooth out. So if you have trouble finding anchovies, reach out to one of us. We can help you come up with an alternative besides the capers, because I really do want you to use some sort of fish in this, unless you're allergic to it. I'm looking at the chat here.
I'm trying to knock them all up. Knock them
Okay,
down.
so you don't have to use the escoffier bechamel recipe. I think it makes a gallon of bechamel. So when you're making a bechamel, you want to use a tablespoon of butter, tablespoon of flour, and a cup and a quarter of milk. You know, make your roux, make your blonde roux, and then use that milk to thicken up your sauce. A little bit of salt and pepper, and you'll be good to go.
If you're not too familiar though with making bechamel, use the recipe as a guideline and reduce that recipe by half. So that way you get the right consistency. There's two versions within the recipe. There's a thick bechamel and a thin bechamel. right? Remember, that's going to be based on the quantity of milk that you're adding, the roux that you have in your ratio. So if you're not familiar with it, I would suggest using the recipe provided in the cookbook, just so that you know that you're getting good.
And
And-
you know, if you do reduce it and you have leftover bechamel, make some macaroni and cheese later in the week. Make something where you can repurpose the rest of that bechamel, or, you know, keep it in the refrigerator for 3 to 4 days and then use it. Goat's milk you can use goat's milk in a bechamel. That'll work just fine. I would recommend, if you're going to do that you use full fat goat's milk, so that you get the right consistency, and goat butter too. Those are great suggestions, Lori. Thank you. All right, let me pull up the actual recipes now, and we'll go through those. All right, so you're going to be making brown butter. What do y'all think the brown butter is for? Anything in the chat?
Flavor.
That's right. It's going to add some flavor to your cauliflower steak. This is a great thing to use to baste your cauliflower steak. So just make sure that you're going to watch for that butter as it foams. Once you have it melted on medium heat, and then you'll start to smell that nutty aroma. And as soon as it's browned, before it burns, take it off the heat and put it in a clean, dry bowl. And that'll keep in your refrigerator for up to a month. It's a great thing to use for basting. I like to use it like if I'm making sometimes I make a butternut squash and mascarpone ravioli, and I'll finish it off in that brown butter with some sage. So you can use it to finish things as well. Chef, anything you want to add about that recipe?
No, just be aware that, don't be afraid, right? We just last week, in week 4, we had the etouffee where we were making chocolate brown roux, right? And some people were a little bit hesitant about, I'm going to burn it, right? And we know that that's always a fear in the kitchen. If I keep cooking this, I'm going to burn it, right? But oftentimes what we see happening, even with searing protein, is you're pulling it before you're developing that flavor profile. Before you're getting that Maillard reaction, before you're getting that nuttiness and richness. If you're feeling like I'm getting too close, right? Pull it off, right? Pull it off of the heat. All right, that's what you're going to want to see, and so you can stop that. If you need to continue cooking it, then you can continue to put that back on the heat. Remember, butter's not cheap, right? So you don't want to waste that product. You want to keep that medium heat. Don't go full ahead. Oh, I need to get this done. I'm short on time. Patience is going to help you in the kitchen when you're trying to execute certain dishes. Otherwise, you're not going to get the desired finished product. Your flavor profiles will not be as developed, and you won't have the correct consistency and color. All right. So, chef.
Well, I was just going to say, if you haven't made brown butter before, make this in a pot. Don't try to make it in the pan that you're going to do your cauliflower steaks in. Make your brown butter first, then use it when you are searing those steaks. If you have made it before and you're comfortable with it, you might make it in your skillet. Just make sure that you really keep an eye on your heat, and you're going to use you're using your senses here when you make this. When you made that brown roux, you were noticing the aroma that was created. So just keep in mind, it's not just about how it looks. You got to look at it holistically, see what the consistency is like, the colors like, the aroma is like. So any questions?
Yeah, chef, a comment about using vegan butter from brown butter. I've never tried that. I don't think that that's going to work, because the whole point of that is utilizing the milk fat solids. The milk fat solids is what's going to give you that nuttiness and richness and flavor profile. You're not making it. Somebody else asked if you're using making it like clarified butter. You don't want to take that. You don't want to skim that off. Because those milk fat solids is what's leading to that better finished flavor profile. Milk fat solids is going to bring that flavor profile out and give you a better finished product there. So if you want to experiment with vegan butter, I would say go for that as a side project, but we want to make sure that you're getting that great finished product out of that.
Any other questions?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right. So moving on to the gremolata, and gremolata can be spelled with a D or a T. I normally spell it with a T, but That's just an aside. Some students have mentioned that in the past. I thought I would address it. So here, as Chef said, it's a little light here on the parsley. I would say if you're going to use 3 teaspoons of grated lemon zest, you probably want to use 3 tablespoons of chopped parsley.
At a minimum, definitely.
At a minimum. And use your judgment here. You know, y'all are here at the end of the program, so we want you to think about the big picture and think about the ratio of ingredients that you have and what's going to really create that beautiful flavor profile that we're looking for with this gremolata. And it's really simple. It's a matter of grating, chopping, making a paste out of your garlic and your anchovy fillets, and then mixing them all together. And then, you know, see if you need a little salt, a little pepper. Probably not going to need salt. And then a little bit of olive oil to kind of finish it off. Who knows how to make a paste out of a clove of garlic? So what you do, and I'm trying to find something here on my desk to represent that clove of garlic.
Jorge said he does. Whitley says. Christina does. Dawn said, yeah.
Okay.
We got
All right.
we got
Awesome.
some takers.
Yeah. So you know, for those of you who haven't done this before, you're going to take your little clove of garlic and put it on your cutting board and turn your chef's knife on its side with the blade away from you and pound that blade with your fist. And that's going to break down that garlic. And then you can chop it up a little bit, and then you can start dragging your knife on, you know, dragging that garlic along your cutting board with the edge of your knife. And it will pulverize it. That's what we're looking for with that paste. All right. Let's go back to these recipes and let's look at the steak. Any questions here about the steak and how you're going to go about cutting the cauliflower steak, and then, you know, what you're going to do to prepare it? You can save those green leaves. Like Chef was saying earlier, if your cauliflower has those green leaves on it, they're delicious. So think about maybe sauteing those and using them in one of these dishes that you're preparing alongside it. That would be a great accompaniment. You want the steaks to be about 1 inch thick. So if you've got a cauliflower head that's about, you know, the size of a, I don't know, a cantaloupe, maybe a little bit smaller than a cantaloupe. Just know that that 1 inch thick steak, you know, it needs to be substantial enough so that the florets don't come off, and leaving part of that stem intact is going to help assure that doesn't happen as well. But that's pretty much, I think yeah, Richard, I'll explain it again. So let's say you've got your cauliflower. I don't really have anything on here. Your cauliflower with the stalk, the bottom of the stalk is here on the counter. So you've got this brain-like vegetable here. If you look where my fingernails are, representing the North Pole up here and the South Pole down at the bottom where my pinkies are, you're going to cut a 1 inch steak that's about the width of my fingernails next to each other down the middle, so that you've got a steak that's cut vertically through that cauliflower. Does that make sense?
Can I throw,
You want to put
can I
this
throw
stem
something in here,
down?
Chef? I was just going to say something in here real quickly. Class, if this is going to be, if you look at the recipes, it's a lot of cauliflower. So if you need to reduce your recipe size, right, and you can't make 4 steaks because you're going to need to, your best effort, your best chance is going to get that center cut, right, through that middle of the stem. Make that your center cut there. That's going to be your steak. Then you're going to have another 2 sides of that cauliflower head hanging around, right? You're going to take your next larger florets. You want to use that for your gratin. Then your smaller pieces in your stalk, you want to use that for your puree, because that puree is getting blended, right? So work through this logistically of thinking, I need my biggest, best cut from the center. Take that center cut. Now I've got my little florets and some stalk left over. Take those beautiful florets of approximately the same size so that you can blanch those and cook those, right? Ready for your bechamel. And then all those little extra pieces left over, you're going to put into the puree because you're blending that anyhow. Size doesn't matter in that case. All right, so that's how I would suggest working through this approach of attacking these recipes, especially if you don't want to eat a whole load of cauliflower this week, or don't have as many people with mouths to feed.
If you do have little ones, I think you'll be surprised at how much they're going to love these, maybe not the steak so much, but definitely the gratin and the puree.
Oh yeah.
You'll be able to pass it off as potatoes very easily. So it's a great way to get some more nutrients into those little mouths that may be somewhat averse to the look of a cauliflower.
Definitely.
All right, so let's go back to the recipes here. I think y'all are going to have a lot of fun with this. It's amazing how versatile this vegetable is, and you're going to get, if you think about a cauliflower steak and you're like, I don't know about that. Most of my students who have made this, who are big meat eaters, loved it. So just be open-minded about it. With your puree, this is one of my favorite things. It's super delicate with its consistency, but it's really rich in flavor. Your heavy cream, your chicken stock, the butter, all of those things are going to create a really lovely, rich puree. So, we've gone over the way to use a sieve or a food mill if you need to. But basically what you're going to do is cook your cauliflower, and then after you've boiled it and simmered it for a little while so that it's nice and tender, then you're going to drain it, save that liquid, and then put your cauliflower and your butter in your food processor and puree it until it's smooth. Then you're going to add some of that cooking liquid and your cream to that, and your chicken stock. And you want it, like I said, just keep adding these things, kind of be slow with it to make sure you don't overdo it and end up with a soup. But add these extra ingredients slowly till you get that nice, rich puree that we're looking for. And the puree, like a mashed cauliflower, will have some substance on the plate, but your puree is something that, if you think about plating these three things together, you could use your puree and kind of make a swoosh through it on the plate, and then place your cauliflower on top, your cauliflower steaks on top of that. That would look really pretty. So it does have sort of a spreadable consistency. Finally, we'll look at the gratin, which I swear y'all are going to think is macaroni and cheese, or like a au gratin potato. So again, you're going to add your cauliflower and lemon juice to your salted water, boil it, simmer it until it's nice and tender. You don't want to overcook this because you don't want it to fall apart into a mash when you make the gratin. So as you're, we've all made macaroni and cheese before. You need to butter the bottom of your pan so that this doesn't stick. One thing I want you to be mindful of is when you mix your bechamel with your cauliflower and pour it into that baking dish, take a wet towel and wipe down the rim. Otherwise, you're going to have all sorts of splatter on your dish when it comes out. And if, say you're going to serve that dish in, serve the gratin in the dish on the table, you want to make sure it doesn't have a bunch of brown flecks baked onto your dish. And I see here in this recipe that it says to cover the cauliflower with the sauce. I don't know, Chef, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I always, when I make a macaroni and cheese or anything like this, I tend to mix the noodles in the bechamel. When I make a potato gratin, I do pour the cream over the potato as I kind of layer it and go up. So I think with cauliflower, maybe you could do one or the other.
Yeah, I think as long as you're getting all of your, my whole idea is I want that cauliflower coated, right? Yeah. Another thing to think about, which we've seen this happen in the past, spreading out your cauliflower in too large of a baking dish. Mm-hmm. And then that bechamel is just all over and you're not getting exactly what Chef Lee is talking about. you want those noodles or whatever, the potatoes, the cauliflower coated in that luxurious sauce. So if your casserole dish is too large, take a piece of foil, fold that up, make a little semi wall and you've got a 12 by 9 baking pan and you're only making a small portion, make a small walled off section so that it's nice and tight and so that your florets stay in there and the bechamel sauce is all contained. Otherwise, it's going to fall to the bottom of your dish and you're not going to get that beautiful finished product. Additionally, you could use small individual oven safe portion size dishes, which also looks beautiful and you get more of that crust and color and development.
Yeah, those are good points. You could also, if you're really into this, double or triple the recipe, make a bunch of it in a bigger, like a 9 by 13 pan. So just keep in mind, you want that gratin, when you put it in the pan, you want it to have some height to it. You don't want it to be like a half-inch thin layer across the bottom of your pan. You want it to be, I don't know, 1.5 inches thick at least in that pan.
Agreed, Chef.
Freeze the puree if you have extra.
I mean, you can, but oftentimes what I've found is that it breaks when you thaw it out and try to reheat. But you can give it a go. You could always turn that into a beautiful cauliflower soup by adding some potatoes. If you've had that extra puree, then throw some potatoes in there, emulsify it in with a stick blender or blender, or even just reblending it. But it's probably going to thin out about, it's not going to have the same consistency and viscosity once you've done that. Questions from, sorry, I'm just running, Chef, sorry, I'm just trying to, the chat is hot today, or maybe, I don't know what's going on. The question about Emmental or English cheddar that is white. Honestly, either one. Mornay is Mornay, and Mornay is delicious all the way. Whatever cheese you like, whatever flavor profile you want, just get it in. Add that cheese into your bechamel, and I mean, almost drinkable. I mean, don't call me. I see you laughing there, Dawn. Yeah, I mean, but I'm serious. It's so disgusting. It's delicious. I mean, who doesn't want some just cheese sauce, right? Just saying, it's good stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love to put Gruyere in a bechamel to make a Mornay.
Oh yeah. Anyway, any cheese, just add it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and Jamie, I see your hand is up. Is that from earlier or?
Jamie Perez.
Did you have something to add, Jamie?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute, it wouldn't let me. When we were going over which one was it? Sorry. We're going over the prior recipe. It said to add lemon juice. It says as needed. Neil, is that supposed to be an acidic profile in that, or is it supposed to be lightly acidic?
Lightly acidic.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Also, there was one other question that came up in the chat before we cut to study hall. And we'll show some photos in the study hall, maybe that'll keep you in. But cauliflower comes in many colors. You've got white standard, you've got beautiful golden cauliflower, you have purple cauliflower, and then oftentimes you'll see, which is a version called Romesco, which is actually a different varietal, but it's a bright green, and it has more like spikes. We'll show some photos in the study hall, but all of those would be acceptable. And we've had students in the past who really have some fun with that. And say, you know what, I'm going to make I'm going to do the steak white, 4 steaks white or whatever. I'm going to do the gratin in yellow and the puree in purple. The purple doesn't have a ton of color though. So it tends to fade, especially when you're blanching that as well. It leaches out into the water. But it's fun to play around with those different colors. So if y'all want to hang on, we're just going to cut this and come right back to study hall. See you in a minute.